Okay, so in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to set up panels for our mock um, comic book strip, let's say, or like a manga or something like that. And when you look at comic books, you'll notice they have these panels. And basically, we're going to set our pages up so that way we can have our panels ready to be able to throw our images up in there, whether they be images that you created or images that you get online, just to be able to make a version of your comic book without actually completing your full comic book, but just getting like a storyboard version of it up. So when you go online, you could look up some comic books and you can see kind of how they have their panels, and some panels cross over the other. And it all depends on if you're trying to show some action or you're just trying to show mystery or you're trying to show some horror. I would suggest going online, looking up some panels, and then kind of taking your notes from that. But this is pretty much what I'm going to copy. Basically, I'm going to reproduce that. And so up in InDesign, I'm going to go ahead and start a new one here. When I start my new InDesign, I'm going to go change this from picas to inches. And I'm going to make sure I have 8 by 10 there. And actually, if I wanted this to be, a different orientation, I can change my orientation here and you can see how that will flip. But 8 by 10 is fine since I figure that's the standard size of a comic book. And I know I'm going to have facing pages, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. And then I'm going to hit create from there. So here we have our blank sheet here. And on the right hand side, we have our layers and we have our pages, our navigations for our pages. The first thing I really want to do is hit Control S to save everything. So I save my work, and make sure you save that. It's going to be an INDD file. Hit save. The second thing I want to be able to do is go ahead and change my layer name. And if this was my title page, I would name that, but this is my first page. So I'm going to go ahead and everything in my first page is going to go here. So first page or page 1. All right, so now I have everything set up and organized so that way I'm not confused when I start adding things here. Now I'm going to go ahead and start putting my placeholders here for my images. A lot of people just start throwing images in there. I like to have placeholders in where the images should go, because if you ever want to change that, your layout doesn't have to change when you have placeholders. But if you had an image there, you might have to do something different in that regards. So I'm going to go here, and according to the one that I'm copying, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. So I'm going to go ahead and drag myself the first one out. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to edit it the way I want before I drag the other ones out. And I notice there's a slight border around that, but like very small border around that. So the first thing I'm going to do is select this by hitting V or going over here and checking up my my selection tool. And I can see that it's selected here, and I can also see that over here is selected, but I can see here that it's not named. So I'm going to go ahead and name this by slowly double clicking. And I'm going to name that panel 1. Now that I have that panel named and it's selected, because I can see by that blue dot there, I'm going to go ahead and change the outline. The outline's black right now. I changed the size to 2. That looks something similar to this here. So I'm going to keep that there. And the reason why I did this first before I did the other ones, because now all I have to do is duplicate this. So I make sure I'm in my selection tool. I'm going to go ahead and select this rectangle, and I'm going to hold down Alt and Shift. And then I'm going to drag it over to the right side with just a little bit of space there. And the way I see it here is I see how this one spans out there. That tells me I'm going to have some sort of direct selection tool here. So I'm going to go here to my direct selection tool, and I'm going to highlight the edge here. And then I'm using my arrow key, I'm going to push it over to the right side. Something like that. Now I'm going to grab my selection tool, and I'm going to duplicate this one by using the same technique, holding Alt down and dragging it. But I want to flip this. So I'm going to drag it up here first. And then I'm going to go up here to my menu and I'm going to do flip vertically. So from here, I'm going to use my direct selection tool to be able to move some of these vertices, holding shift to make sure that it stays in place. It stays on one axis. Let's put it that way. A little bit closer there. There we go. And now I'm going to select both of these vertices and drag them up. And now I'm going to go back to my standard selection tool and duplicate this one here. And then I'm going to flip this around. So with my selection tool already there, I'm going to go to the edge till I see that double-headed arrow that's arched, and then I'm going to flip it all the way around. And using the little boxes here, I can go ahead and resize that. Now using my direct selection tool, hitting A, selecting that edge, just dragging this over till it snaps in line here. Now I can select all of these edges here. Once I have all of these not the edges, these vertices. Once I have all these vertices selected, I can go up here to my align tool and align these to the left or to the right. So I'm going to align these to the right. So they're all aligned to the right. Select these, align to the right. And the next thing I want to do is pull this up just a little bit and pull this out. So direct selection tool, pull that out. And I'm going to select this vertices and then shift and select that vertices and pull them both up. Something like that. So that's good. Now the next thing I want to be able to do is make I want this box here. But because I'm not going to really make this second page right now, I'm going to have this box, these boxes overlap this one. Okay. So again, I go ahead and create my box, my rectangle. And I notice how that rectangle goes all the way to the end. And using my direct selection tool, hitting A on my keyboard, selecting the edge, dragging it up. But see how I can move it everywhere? I'm going to hold down shift while dragging it up so it stays on one axis. And then I can go ahead and add my 2 points on the border. And because I noticed those two at the bottom here, they look similar to this, I can just go ahead and go to my selection tool and drag this one down using the Alt key. Once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and shrink this actually. Now as I'm shrinking it, I'm holding down Alt and Shift so that way it shrinks evenly. So if I drag the edge and hold Alt and Shift, it'll shrink and expand evenly as I pull it. So I'm going to make mine just a little bit different because I'm lazy, and I'm just going to drag this one over here and flip this one around by going up here to my menu, going to the horizontal flip, flipping that around that way. And I'm going to drag this edge by hitting A and then bringing this up, holding Shift. So that way it can stay on the same axis. And then I'm going to go ahead and expand this one, bring this one up, and bring this one out. There we go. Now what we have here is we have all of our comic book panels. And if you don't feel comfortable about this one being on the side, kind of how this one is, then just go ahead and change it, you know. But always keep in mind though, is that you can have there's going to be another page over here. This is a flip book, so there's going to be another page over here, and you can always put a background there, which we're going to do for this one. So in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to add images to our comic book layout. But before we do that, you got to make sure you come over here and make sure you name these panels. So I'm going to select this panel here. I see that that panel's down here. That's panel 1. But the panel 1 is all the way up here. So I'm going to drag that panel all the way up to the top because I'm going to need these to be in order. So I'm going to select the panel. That one selected. Drag it to the top. And now I'm going to go ahead and name these panels properly. That's panel 1. This will be 2. And so on and so forth. So as you can see, first what I do is I arrange them. Then I rename them. Now I have my page 1 with all its panels there. Perfect. The last thing I want to do here is prepare for my background, even though I'm not putting the background there. But I want my backgrounds, all my backgrounds for all my pages to be on their own layer. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is go here and add myself a layer using this create new layer button right there. And I'm going to change this from layer 2 to BG for all my backgrounds. And then I'm going to hit OK. Once I do that, I'm going to drag this below my page 1. Perfect. Now I'm ready to go ahead and put my backgrounds there. But for right now, we should be done with this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.